in a culture that pushes this over preparing your kids, or you don't want to do it, okay, just quit. It's okay. We'll go home. We'll make everything nice and comfortable. It's so important to instill this concept of discomfort in your children. And as parents, it's so hard to have that balance because you don't want to raise your children uncomfortably, whether it be with food, financially. You want to give them this beautiful home to live in. But part of that beautiful home is learning resilience. They are going to come up against it at every stage of their life.
You have to accept that they're going to have to go through massive failures. Even Michael Jordan or these great athletes, like they went through many, many, many failures to be great. With that comes fear, comes doubt, comes depression, anxiety, and stress. And had they given up, their parents said, oh, it's okay, baby, you can quit right now, they would never have been great.
What is your relationship with the word discipline? We hear Jocko, we hear Aristotle, that discipline equals freedom. We've culturally accepted the dad bod, the fat dad, the doofy dad. But what does it mean to be a disciplined dad? What does it mean to show up for yourself and for those who are most important to you? Which brings me to this week's guest, Chris Rodack. Chris is a husband, a father, an entrepreneur, a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and the founder of the Men of Fire program, where Chris helps guide, facilitate, and lead men to become the most disciplined, ripped version of themselves. Chris and I talked about his journey from being a teacher to a full-time entrepreneur, what it means to show up for your family, the cultural acceptance of the doofy fat dad, and much more. So I hope you enjoy this episode with Chris Rodack. Enjoy.
Hi, everyone. This is Chris Rodack of Rising Father, and this is the Vinny Brusco Show.
And here we go.
You make me feel, which is a loaded sentence, right? So you point out to me how potentially lazy I can be. And I'm a person who I consider myself fairly disciplined. I'm fairly regimented. I eat pretty cleanly, check a lot of the boxes, but you are radically disciplined and accountable for yourself to a point where I watch, I follow you on Instagram and I'll see you do something like, God damn it. And all that does really is point out opportunity where I can grow and develop and become stronger and better. But a lot of people may not see it that way. And obviously the old quote, comparison is the thief of joy. You can very easily, especially in social media, get caught up in the, well, if Chris can do that, and well, this is Chris's life and that's that, and all these things. How did you get to this point of being so disciplined and so accountable for yourself?
I kind of was back in the day. Like before, whenever I lived by myself, before I got married and had kids, I was like that. And even when I was in college, like I was a saxophone major, a music major, and I would practice 6 to 8 hours every single day. And I went from like the worst player in my college to the best. Like I won competitions and I was very disciplined about it. Not about my health, just about what I was focused on at that time. And then I lived by myself, and like I tell the story a lot. Like I did P90X a bunch of times. I got ripped. I went to work with little containers of like chicken and broccoli. So it was great then. And then I got married. So I'm not blaming my wife, but it was like all the temptation of, marriage and kids. And I kind of just let myself go because it was a new level of responsibility that I wasn't ready for. Like I could handle myself on my own and be extremely disciplined when I was the only one I had to worry about. But then when I also had to worry about the house, my wife, my kids, finances, all this kind of stuff, it took up a lot of my attention, and I stopped being disciplined with my own self because all I was doing was focusing on that. And it's not that I was just crushing everything and not my health. Because I wasn't taking care of my health, everything started to slip. It all has to come together. So like there was, many years, like a decade, where I just was up and down with my weight, being disciplined and not disciplined. And then I guess I got to the point where I was 60 or 70 pounds heavier than I am right now. And this is like a year ago or a year and a half ago, whatever it was. And I saw a picture of myself and my son, and my son was just like looking at me with like, just thought I was Superman. There's so much love. and I didn't look happy anymore. Like I wasn't truly smiling. And I think that was because I wasn't respecting myself, and I didn't love myself as much as I should have, because I knew that I could be more. I let myself go, and I didn't want to live the rest of my life like that. Like I'm only in my 30s. I got a lot of life left, but this is the cliff that happens for a lot of guys. Like I know guys who are 31 years old who look like they're 60, but I also know guys who are 50 who look like they're in their 20s. And it's just like, it all happens right now when you start this 30 to 40 age, where you decide to go all in and take care of yourself, and you can shave like decades off your life, or add decades to your life, or you can just let it all go, and like just age so fast. So I decided to just one day, like, it's not gonna be me. And then I had to, honestly, I journaled a lot. I'd remember my thoughts and emotions, and what I remembered as myself being extremely disciplined, because it was years since I was like that again. I said, okay, if I could do this with saxophone as a college kid, if I could do this by myself, like I can do that again. Like that is still in me. I just need to do it step by step. And I didn't start from zero to extremely disciplined in everything. Like I had to do it one step at a time, which is like wake up early, and then wake up early and go to the gym, and then wake up early, go to the gym, and do these things. And it was a gradual process. But now, after each step became routine, I can just keep on adding things on. And now, like, I'm the most disciplined I've ever been. I'm in the best shape I've ever been in. Like, all these areas are taking off because I finally got that discipline back. And now I'm just like, now the game's just, okay, keep building the momentum, keep pushing, and don't take any steps back.
There's a lot of things there to unpack. I mean, I think the first thing is the marriage and the kids, right? And that's where so many people, men, get, to your point, that's where it kind of splits, right? The bandwidth now gets divided. It can't just be all about you anymore. But at the same time, within that not being all about you, you have to circle back to a point where it does become about you in order to show up for your wife and your children. Because if you're going to have your son look at you as if you were Superman, as you put it, then you better have Superman's physique, right? Because he's going to require and look up to you because he sees you, right? Your children see through you. They see who you are as you see them, right? That's the role of the father, is to see the child, right? And to push them, but to see them, and they see you. But he saw you as Superman despite your physique, but you didn't see yourself in that regard. And that's where it could be a catalyst to kind of shift, or we can resort back to our comfort. And I think it's the unknown, right? The unknown is the scary thing. It's comfortable being overweight and making these food decisions. And you're more of a pariah if you're living a healthy lifestyle rather than if you're drinking and boozing and eating burgers at lunch.
Yeah. I mean, if you do what the guys do in my group, like, yeah, you're the weirdo. I mean, getting up early and tracking what you eat. Like, I've got guys who, we bring scales to restaurants and measure our food. And, it's like, if you want to make a massive change, you got to just do everything differently. Like, I got a guy who's been with us a couple months this week, because I did just got done with a long fast.
Yeah. How many hours was your fast?
It was 7 days. So I didn't, what's 7 times 24?
Someone do the math. I have no idea, but whatever it is.
Something, right. Whatever that is.
Right.
So I did that. And then a bunch of guys in my group are like, all right, I'm going to do a fast now. There's one guy's like, I'm going to do a fast. I'm going to quit nicotine. I'm going to quit drinking. And he listed like 6 things he's going to all do starting on Monday. I was like, man, that's admirable. That's great. Let's do it. So, but if you get like one of those things, that's a massive win. Like, if because we all have these vices that try to hold us down, and that we've just been addicted to our whole life. But she's like, I got to cut all these out. And then halfway through the week, he's like, yeah, man, I did 4 out of 5 of them. He's like, I couldn't do nicotine. Like, I didn't drink for the last 5 days. I'm still fasting. I didn't do all these things. So we're like, man, that's a massive, massive win. I forget where I'm going with this. What your question was? What was your question?
No,
how did we get here?
It doesn't matter. However we got here.
Okay.
But,
yeah.
But the idea is that, it's about showing up for yourself, whether it be one day at a time, one thing at a time, right? And then building up those wins. what made you want to go on a fast? Because obviously,
Okay, yeah.
Dana White obviously just did he spoke very openly about a big fast he did and the health benefits of it. And I know I do the, usually 12-hour fast or something like that, 16-hour fast. Was there something specifically that went off your head, said, yeah, I want to do a 7-day fast?
No, I mean, I got motivated by a guy in my group. He said he was going to do a 24-hour fast because he's never missed a meal before. And like, I've done a 5-day fast before in my other group I'm in. So I did like a 5-day fast. I had a fasting coach who guided me through it. And that was like a year and a half ago. So this guy said, I'm going to do a 24-hour fast. So I said, all right, man, I'll do it with you. So I did 24 hours with him. And huge win for him, massive, because like I said, he's never gone like 4 hours without eating. So I felt fine. I felt great. I said, hey, well, let's just bump it up to 3. So I did 3 days. I was feeling really good. At the end of 3, like day 2 was really, really bad and rough, and I did not feel good at all. But day 3, I felt great. So I said, all right, I didn't have a specific goal in mind. At the end of each benchmark that I hit, I said, let's just up it to. So then I got to 5. And then when I got on the 5th day, all these guys were like messaging me and saying how they were going to do fast and how they're getting inspired and motivated. And so I told the guys in my group, I was like, all right, our call is on Saturday. Saturday will be my 7th day. I'm going to go all the way so I could kind of like celebrate with you guys to be on my 7th day, hit this goal. And then after our call, I'll break my fast. So I broke it with like oatmeal and bone broth. But it's like a roller coaster, man. It was a lot of lessons I learned throughout the time about just how much I think about food, how much food is like it's like a pacifier to stress and anxiety. And like I had these really amazing clear moments where I just had such clear thought and I had a lot of wisdom. Then I had other times there was just a lot of suffering. But it was I did not think that I could go 7 days without eating. And then I did. I'm like, hey, that's possible for me. And just built my confidence up and inspired a lot of guys in my program.
Yeah, the word can't is definitely the governor that we put on our own engine sometimes, right? Like you build this wall of I can't do this thing. And it's only based on the sheer fact that you just have never tried or you've never done it before. It doesn't mean that you can't do it. And then the other way is, this feeling of I am great at this thing, but you have no track record of doing it. My daughter's guilty of that with jiu-jitsu. She's like, I'm very good at jiu-jitsu. I'm like, you are very good at jiu-jitsu, but there's room to improve, right? And you don't want to burst that balloon, but at the same time, it's this false sense of accomplishment that also can get in the way of you. Had you just stopped at day 3, that would have been great, but you found the next level, which was like day 4, and then all of a sudden day 5. And those are when those thoughts come to your mind, that's where it gets, tricky. Like I'll do the cold plunge and I'll do the video thing. I'll get in it. I'll get a minute. The timer's up on the video. I'm like, I could just get out right now. And no one knows if I stayed in for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 10 minutes, 5. It really, no one knows. But then I'll sit and I say, well, and are you doing it for that? Or are you doing it for the growth and development and the pushing through the difficulty? What are you doing it for? And I think that's always a good barometer of why are you doing this?
Yeah, I did a whole podcast in the middle of my fast. I did a bunch of podcasts in my fast. If you're listening to that and my words are slurring, that's why. But one of them was just titled, Why Am I Doing This? Because I was focused during I think the 4th or 5th days, I was going through like a rough patch where I was just so hungry. I had the rest of the day ahead of me and all this stuff to do. And I was like, man, this would be so much easier if I just had food in my stomach right now. Because something stressful happened. And then I immediately, the first thought that came to my head was just walk upstairs and grab a snack. Because I work from home and it's just the food, all the food I could ever want is just right there. And when I did my fast before at school, it was almost easier because I didn't have access to just any food I wanted at any time. But here, at any point, I could just walk up and get some food. So I was a little stressed out that day. I said, man, nothing would be better than just walking upstairs and just, putting something in my face that just takes that little stress away that I could look forward to. And I was like, man, why am I doing this? And then it was just, for me, if I have to make it about something greater than myself, like that's part of the reason why I didn't stick with working out and eating healthy after I got married, is because it was still about me. It was still about me getting ripped or me being the best shape I could be. instead of, hey, if I can go through this week suffering and still show up for my family, still be happy, still be a light, still be warm and kind and loving to them, then that means that when real chaos and craziness comes to my house, I'm going to be so much stronger for them. And every night was a test, because every night we did dinner as a family. And my wife is just awesome. She keeps on saying, hey, you can eat by yourself, or, we won't eat by you. And that was the test for me every night. I was like, no, I'm going to eat with you guys, or I'm going to sit with you guys. So they all ate.
Right.
And I just sat with them and said, okay, well, now since I can't worry about food, my focus has to be on my family the entire meal. So, I was playing Would You Rather. I was playing games with them, trying to be funny and just focus on them and not worry about the food. And the 6th night of the fast, like right before the 7th day, we went out to this restaurant that I've always wanted to go to. We went with Sarah's parents, and a super nice restaurant, great food. I've always wanted to go there. And this was, of course, on the 6th day.
Of course,
on that night.
Naturally, it's going to be on that day, that night. Like now, it's like all the build up. Here comes the real
final
test.
test.
You thought here's the big boss. Here's King Koopa, right?
Yep.
Here's Bowser. You thought you were going to do it, and here it is. So continue.
Exactly. And I've always wanted to go there. And Sarah said, "Oh, we don't have to go. You're fasting." I said, "No, schedule it. I want to do it. Like, let's see if I can do it." So we go there. It's so nice. It's all decorated for Christmas. It's just amazing comfort food everywhere. Giant burgers and all around me. I get hot tea and water. And the same thing was just, am I going to make this about me right now? Am I going to make my fast about me? Is this all I'm going to talk about? Am I going to just point out how hungry I am? So no, here's the game. You need to show up. You need to not mention it once. You need to be making everyone else feel good. So it was just a big test for me of how can I show up as a person when I'm suffering, eating 7 days without food, because all this stuff is going to happen again, where I'm going to be stressed out because something at work or something at home or whatever it is, and I still have to be that for my family. So by making it about something other than myself, it was able to propel me further.
You broke up a little bit there. Do you find that you're, as a father, and obviously rising fathers, you lean into being a dad, as do I. Do you find that your children are your purpose? In the group work that I do, the Council of Dudes, a couple of guys say, "Oh, my purpose are my children." And I always wrestle with that, because I think that is a great purpose. And I think it's probably one of the biggest purposes, but I think sometimes I lean into me being the purpose, because again, as I'm growing and developing, I'm now cultivating their growth and development by being an example. So maybe that is, a circumvented way of them being my purpose. But you talk a lot about your children and the purpose that they provide you. Why is it that the children are your purpose rather than your wife or yourself or your community?
Well, I don't think my children are my purpose. I think that my children provide a good purpose for the actions that I take. But like, my purpose is more than that. Like, it's my children are part of my storyline. And like right now, we have different phases in life. Like right now, I'm a father, and I've got kids who will impact hundreds, thousands, maybe millions of people someday. So for me, one of the most important things I can do is be a great father right now. Like, not let a single moment go. And no, I agree with how our wife needs to be at the top of our list. So but I have heard some guys say, my children are my only purpose. And I think that's like a very black and white thing. And like, what your purpose is can be a very black and white and nuanced and go into the weeds type of conversation. But I think it doesn't have to be one definable thing. I think it can be, I want to make it the greatest impact I can. For me, that's right now, I want to help guys not just my family, as many guys as I can. I want to help them understand their impact that they have as a father right now. So right now, if you said, what's your purpose? I would say that is it. I want to help guys understand their impact that they're having as a father right now. 5 years, that might change. 10 years, that might change. How I can do that, my kids are part of that. Like me being the best dad I can to my kids right now is also extremely important to me, obviously. And it also is part of my greater purpose that I have. So for me, if you said that my kids are my purpose, I would say, fine, that's great. But I don't think it has to, there's one right answer for everyone. Like whatever it means to you, that's fine. And saying I have to do everything, making your purpose this holy grail that you have to debate about all the time, I think is a kind of a waste of energy.
Yeah, it's a bit of a trap almost. And you can kind of outsource your own energy, or kind of what we were saying earlier, the bandwidth of your abilities to your children and to your wife or to your community, and not refocus that energy on yourself, which then will allow you to actually show up in a way that proves that they're your purpose, or they are a part of your purpose. In the self-help world, we hear the term best version of yourself, 2.0 version of yourself, showing up for yourself, all of these wonderful terms. But what does that even mean, right? What does showing up for yourself mean? What does finding your purpose mean? So how do you cultivate that out of guys? Because that's different for everybody, right? The best version of you is different than the best version of the next guy. So what is something you do with guys to kind of help them harness that version of themselves?
Routines and doing basics. So if you've ever followed Jordan Peterson or any of the big guy influencers, a lot of them preach the same thing, and that is just proving to yourself every day who you are and stacking wins. So if you join a men's program where you say, hey, I need to improve myself, I would say we're not going to spend weeks deciding what your purpose is or deciding what your goal in life is. Like, all you need to do is wake up tomorrow. Okay. You need to say, what do I have to do tomorrow that makes me 1% better than today? Maybe that's wake up an hour earlier. Maybe that's go to the gym. Maybe that's not eat 5 pieces of pizza. Maybe that's have like 3 drinks instead of 6 drinks. It's do something tomorrow that you don't want to do that makes you better. It's cut something out of your life or add something into your life that improves you over today. It's going to be different for every single person. So if a guy comes to me and says, like, I'm struggling, like I'm middle-aged, I kind of lost my fire, I let myself get undisciplined and sloppy. It's not complicated, but it's not easy, because the solution is doing things that you don't want to do that push you, such as waking up, such as going to the gym, such as not eating the foods you want to eat. So when you join our program, like, we set up a morning routine for you, and I don't care about your purpose or fulfillment or all these long-term things. It's just, no, can you do this set of things 7 days in a row? Can you do that? If not, we're going to cut that back. If not, we're going to cut that back until you can do these things, like waking up, eating correctly, going to the gym. Then we're not going to worry about anything else. But you're going to find that if you can do these basic male things, life things, just taking care of yourself and controlling yourself, you are going to start feeling better and confident and more strong. Like, you don't need to know the result. You don't need to know the end point before you do this. Don't worry about numbers or results or titles or anything like that. Just worry about how you are showing up today. How are you controlling yourself today? Did you wake up when you said you would? Did you go to the gym when you said you did? Did you control yourself in front of your family whenever you promised you would? If you're doing those things, you are winning. And if you do those things day after day after day, you're going to start to feel more confident, strong, and better about yourself. Through that, if you do that for a long period of time and all that compounds, maybe then you can start to explore, and you'll start to say, hey, I love who I am. I respect the man I am. Maybe this is possible for me. Your vision can start to expand, and you can start to explore those more philosophical ideas.
Yeah, the more ethereal things, they're so grand and so big, and it's like trying to eat an elephant, right? It's one bite at a time, but it really does start with that harnessing and sharpening of your own steel and showing up for yourself, because how are you going to take on that bigger goal of starting a business or whatever it is? How are you going to take that on if you can't even be regimented and diligent with your own practices?
Yeah, I mean, don't let's not have a conversation about your purpose if you're still binge drinking every night. like step one.
Right. Right. You film a lot of things with your kids, and one thing that you were doing with your son was a new jiu-jitsu every single day?
Every week.
Every week for 1 year.
Yeah.
Okay. So obviously that in its own right, he's learning more jiu-jitsu. You're learning more jiu-jitsu, right? I learned so much from watching the kids class, but and you're sharpening that tool. But there's also a bigger thing happening, right? There's also a bigger thing that's transpiring with your relationship with your son, but also with his relationship with himself, right? Creating that confidence, like you're in your program, creating that confidence of showing up for yourself to do the thing you said you were going to do. What have you seen shift in him and in your daughter in regards to their own relationship with themselves and then kind of with the world?
They start to see themselves as confident, strong, and dangerous because of real life actions. Like my son did a jiu-jitsu tournament a couple months ago. He had 7 matches. All 7 he submitted his opponent in under a minute. And we prepared for it. We practiced for it. So he got double gold in that tournament. He felt like such a badass after that tournament. Like he was showing his medals to everyone. Like in the midst of the tournament, he had some obstacles he had to overcome. Like he had the wrong shorts on. Someone elbowed him in the eye. He was crying 2 different times. So I had to pump him up. I was like, man, you are a warrior right now. And I was pumping him up and talking to it. And even today, he's like, Dad, I remember one of my favorite moments in my life is whenever you said the H word. I forgot I said hell for some reason. And he was like, because I was pumping him up and he still remembers that moment. So it's kind of it's like remembering a battle or a war. And he remembers himself overcoming these things and coming out victorious. So for the rest of his life, he's going to have this memory of himself, just like this warrior, confident, strong, coming out victorious, having these gold medals. And no one can ever take that away from him. That gives you so much confidence. It's the memory of doing hard things. And we can also do they could also do the opposite. Like if he went into that tournament, had this resistance and gave up and failed, and I allowed him to do that. And I said, Nathan, oh, it's okay, man. You're crying. Let's just go home and quit. He would have that memory of himself failing, and he would then be weaker because of it. But because he overcame it and has this memory of him persevering and being strong, now he's a stronger person. Same thing with my daughter. She's not nearly as intense as Nathan is. Like Nathan has that really masculine, I don't know, he's starting to get that testosterone going through him. Lauren, when she rolls, it's still like giggling and, she's just rolling around and laughing with her friends as she does it. But still, she's got a really good guard and she's learning things as she's screwing around. But when she rolls, she has kids that she rolls with that are twice her weight, that are like pushing their forearms into her neck, trying to choke her. And she's there just smiling and doesn't bother her. I can't imagine you go to some random school, pull an 8-year-old girl out, put them in that situation. They're going to be crying, screaming, freaking out, going home and quitting. Like she is just used to this level of stress and resistance and fear that's no longer fearful to her. And if she ever gets in like a situation at school with a bully or gets in a fight or something, like it's just going to be routine for her now. Like these scary situations are now going to be routine. So, I mean, jiu-jitsu, like that alone is amazing. But for me, the number one thing, if I had to pull one thing, it's the memory of you doing hard things and proving to yourself how strong you are. So like for my kids, that's been the biggest thing for them.
And what about for you? Because I know obviously you practice jiu-jitsu, as do I. And I'll say that
I just saw a tournament, right?
I did. I did. I got gold. Listen, and it's
nice.
No different for a 39-year-old man and your son's 10? 10-year-old?
He'll turn 10 in January, yeah.
Okay, so a 10-year-old boy and a 39-year-old man. I felt like a fucking badass. Like I'm listening to,
Hell yeah.
I'm listening to 16th century war music in my headphones as I'm pacing back and forth like a fucking tiger in a cage, and my wife and my kids are looking at me. But there is this confidence level that and I think jiu-jitsu is this perfect microcosm of the world, right? That you develop in doing things like that. And then seeing my daughter after and say, oh, I want to compete, and then my son saying like, I want to go jiu-jitsu this week. And it's not about jiu-jitsu, but it is this, like I said, this microcosm of a bigger picture. It does instill confidence and, and being under stress and knowing your body physically. If you don't know what you're capable of, or you don't know how to move accordingly, the world can get really weird really quickly. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Vinny Brusco Show podcast. I hope you've been enjoying the show so far. If you have been, do me a favor, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast wherever you get it. iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and right here on YouTube. Click the notification button, leave a little comment, subscribe to the channel, and of course, spread the word and tell a friend. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I look at these big, the adult tournaments, and it's intimidating to do that, man. So good for you. That's awesome.
Thank you.
I mean, then your kids watched you do it, and then like so inspired now. Like your kids got to watch their dad win gold at a jiu-jitsu tournament. How badass is that?
Feel it. You feel it. I laugh about it, but you do feel it. And you there's this balance in your own mind where you're like, I don't want to I didn't win the fucking Olympics. But at the same time, in your mind, you're like, no, that was a big, and then everything that led up to it, and a bigger part of it, and I'm sure you could speak on this, was I asked my wife, I was like, hey, she said, do you want us to come? And at first I was like, yeah. And then another part of me came up and was like, no. And then I had the conversation with myself. I said, well, why don't you want them to come? And I said, because I'm afraid they're going to see me lose. And then I literally immediately said to myself, well, then don't even bother going. Because if you're afraid you're going to lose, then you've already lost. And there's no point of going. So I literally had to have a conversation with myself. And I walked to my house and said, I want you guys there. No matter what happens, I want you guys to be there. And I knew there was going to be a lesson in it no matter what happened, because I know I could think that way. I have the ability to think that way. But at the same time, that fear came up.
Yeah. Now kids have a memory of you winning gold, but what if you lost every match?
Right.
But here's the thing, that would still be okay. That would still be okay if you lost every match, because your kids have to be okay with failure. They have to be okay. They have to be okay losing. Like, because if you lost every match and it crushed you and you couldn't handle it and you quit, then that's what your kids are going to do. Yeah. But if you lost every match and they said, hey guys, it doesn't matter, I'm just going to go back and practice and I'm going to get better for the next tournament. Like, what an amazing lesson that would have been also. Exactly. Like, you're showing your kids that when they fail, they don't have to crush their identity. Like, it doesn't have to crush them, because they're going to fail. If they want to try anything and be great at anything, you have to go through lots and lots of failures. So when that happens, it doesn't have to destroy you. So yeah, there could be amazing lessons and everything. I was so happy. My son's first jiu-jitsu tournament, he didn't win a medal. He had like 16, it was a crazy huge tournament. He had 16 kids in his division. He still did really well, but he did not win. And I was so thankful, because I said, if he goes into his first jiu-jitsu tournament, gets gold, and just crushes everyone, this is not going to be good for him. He needs to be motivated after this. He has to understand that failure is good, and he can battle back and improve. So I completely, like, for me, I do not want to be this undefeated, made of steel person to my children. I want to be Superman, of course, but I also need to teach them how to deal with setbacks and failures and mistakes, because that's going to happen to them.
Yeah, and in a culture that really promotes, or a subculture of a culture that promotes snowplow parenting, right? And over over involvement in a lot of these activities, right? You have hypothetically, you have the living vicarious dad at a baseball game or football game in a stereotypical way, in a culture that kind of pushes this weird balance of like over preparing your kids, or you don't want to do it, okay, just don't do it, just quit, it's okay.
Yeah.
We'll go home, we'll get the iPad, we'll make everything nice and comfortable. It's so important to instill this concept of discomfort in your children, and as parents, it's so hard to have that balance because you don't want to raise your children uncomfortably, whether it be with food, financially. You want to give them this beautiful home to live in, but part of that beautiful home, and I think it's one of the most important things children can learn, is learning resilience. Resilience is the most important tool that a child can cultivate, because they are going to come up against it at every stage of their life.
Yeah. And that, I mean, that's for us too. Like for guys, if we have to first develop resilience, if we want to preach it to our kids, which is why building ourselves, I believe, is the absolute best way that you can improve your performance as a father. It's by you digging in and building yourself. And then our kids, yeah, I mean, if you want them to be successful in life, you have to accept that they're going to have to go through massive failures. If you want them to be successful in business, think about any successful business owner that is successful right now. They have failed at so many businesses before they are right now. Like it's most of the businesses they've done, they've failed at until they are where they're right now. Even Michael Jordan or these great athletes, like they went through many, many, many failures to be great. With that comes fear, comes doubt, comes depression, anxiety, and stress. And had they given up at each of those, or their parents said, "Oh, it's okay, baby, you can quit right now," they would never have been great. And they would never learn how to deal with that. Also, whenever you do that to your kid, you're telling them that they have to be perfect to be happy, which is also massively dangerous, because you're developing this perfectionist attitude where you're telling your kid, well, if you're not going to succeed at this, you can quit. So you should only try things that you're going to succeed at. Therefore, saying you should never take risks, you should never invest in yourself, and you should never try anything that's hard, because if you can't be perfect, then you're not good enough. Like if you can't be perfect at this thing you're trying, then you shouldn't even try it. I don't believe that. Like, no, go try something. If you fail, it's okay. I still love you. You should still love yourself. That's part of the process. So there's a lot that goes into stealing resistance and hard situations from our kids. Shouldn't do it easily. It's like, no, through this challenge, through this failure, there are so many lessons that we do not want to rob our kids of.
Yeah. Do you come across, I mean, obviously you do. So I guess I should rephrase that too. What are things that you come with resistance with? I mean, are you still resistant to waking up at 3:45 in the morning? Or do you have the David Goggins moments where you're staring at your shoes for a half hour and being like, fuck, why am I doing this? Or have you dialed that part in?
No, most days I don't want to get up. Yeah, it's never, I don't know. Like some guys say, like, yeah, the alarm goes off and I jump up and I'm so happy to be alive. And that's not me. After I'm up and at the gym and lifting and feeling great and motivated, then I get that feeling of, man, I'm a badass. I feel great to be alive. But no, when the alarm goes off, every single day, I would much rather keep sleeping. So, but what the muscle that's getting stronger is me pushing through that feeling. So getting up isn't easier. I'm just getting stronger at beating that voice down. And the more you do that, the more you are able to beat down the voice that tells you to take it easy. And it starts with getting out of your bed in the morning. And then it goes to, well, I'm impatient. I'm hungry. I feel like snapping at my wife right now, but I've developed this muscle of pushing back that behavior. So now I'm not going to do that, or I'm not going to eat the food or drink the drink. So no, it's a resistance every single day. Yeah. And it always comes in the morning, and you always get the why you should stay in bed, and you always have to keep on beating it down. Never easy.
Yeah, it's reacting versus responding, right? The initial thing is just stay in bed, snap, do this, do that, eat the food. And then but that has the immediate gratification thing, right? And we live in a culture that fuels immediate gratification. It pushes it forward versus, I know I don't want to do this, but in the long term, in the bigger picture, this is the right thing to do in order to achieve the thing I want to achieve. And to kind of your earlier point, if you want to have extreme goals or lofty goals or have these bigger pictures, then you need to take extreme measures in the present moment. But we lose sight of that when the alarm goes off and the bed's warm and it's 38 degrees outside. And I'm like, I'm going to go in the cold plunge at 38 degrees outside. And I'm in there and it hurts and it's painful. But then when you get out, to your point, when you get out of the gym, it was all worth it. But it's this weird paradox you have to go through of all this internal dialogue and bullshit that you tell yourself. And it's never easy. I wonder, are you ever able to get to a point where it's easy? And I think I've come to the conclusion that it's not.
Yeah, and wishing for an easier time is really dangerous, I think.
Yeah.
You know, like, because then you're like, why, you get back to that question of why are you doing this? Are you doing it to get to a goal line, to a finish line? Like, oh, I only have to suffer and be disciplined now so I don't have to later. Well, then if you think like that, then you're not a disciplined person. You're doing this to get a result. Like, do you just want to live this life and that's who you are? Or is this a character you're playing to reach a certain result? So it's never going to, it might always be hard, but does that mean you're change? Like, are you looking for everything to be easy? If you're looking for everything to be easy, then don't even go into this game. Like, just to sleep in, just overeat, overdrink, because that's really easy. Like, living a hard life, the payoff isn't the pleasure and the immediate pleasure. Living a hard, disciplined life, the payoff is who you become, who you inspire. And it's more than just that temporary gratification.
Yeah, but it does become somewhat like I'll say to my wife, I'm like, oh God, I can't stand it. She's like, you kind of like it. I'm like, in this weird way, I enjoy the result of it, right? Like, I enjoy, do I love running at 4 in the morning or 5 in the morning? No. Do I like going in the sauna at 120 degrees afterwards and I feel like I'm going to pass out? No. But there is a part of me, the grit part of me, the part of me that, the same part of your son that kind of, you talked about it, the blood dripping down his face, right? Like, there's a part of us that enjoys kind of the pain and the discomfort. And that is something that can be alchemized to breed a result that you want. And that's a healthy relationship that you could develop with yourself. But there's a difference between enjoying that and enjoying and wanting to have that be easy.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I mean, wanting something to be easy, I think, is natural, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, whenever you're suffering in the morning, wanting it to be easier is okay. Doesn't mean you stop.
Right.
Like, all those shitty thoughts that come to us, you don't have to be mad at yourself because you're getting them. It's not like, well, I got up in the morning and I didn't want to, so because I didn't want to, it didn't count. Like, no, you got up. That's what counts. It doesn't, and that's the whole thing, is like, it doesn't matter what you're feeling. If you're inspired, if you're on fire, you do the thing anyway. The only thing that matters is what you actually did. And in the end, like, even if we're not inspired, not motivated, not feeling that fire, not feeling confident, we still have to be there for ourselves, for our community, and for our family. So it doesn't matter what you're feeling in the moment. If as long as you're doing the thing, then guess what? You're going to end up, those feelings are going to come. But if they don't come, it doesn't matter. Like, are you doing your routine? Are you doing these hard things purely for a feeling? Or are you doing it because this is who your identity is? Like, am I doing the cold plunge purely for the feeling I get afterwards? Or am I doing it for another reason? Am I going to the gym only so I can feel great? Or is there something more to it? And the more you dig down, you can start to have some more resolve whenever you actually do these things.
Yeah. And the gym's a weird one because, again, you could be You could be in great shape, but have a really bad relationship with yourself. You could have a great body and look fantastic. Body dysmorphia amongst bodybuilders is a very common thing. They're never big enough. They're never strong enough. And that's a deeper issue, right? There's something else going on behind the scenes there that's not being resolved. And it's being played out in this, in this arena that seems to be healthy, maybe not bodybuilding to a degree, but for the most part, physical endeavors, working out, going to the gym can be perceived as a very healthy thing. But if you're showing up in a way that's a non-healthy way, is it really doing the job that needs to be done? Could you go deeper? Could you look internally and say, what else am I doing this for? What am I coping with?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely true with bodybuilders. I know a guy who just, won a bodybuilding competition, and he got that like 3% body fat, something insane. And then a couple weeks afterwards, he's up 10, 14 pounds. And he's like really struggling with not looking like he was. And if you know the sport, to get to that point can be it's just tons of suffering. You're losing muscle, you're not eating. It's just a really painful process. And you can't do it forever. Like it's just a once in a year, maybe once every 2 year point in your life. Because if you continue that, it's very, very unhealthy. But so he's putting on weight like he should naturally, but then he looks at himself and he doesn't see, his ass veins, and he doesn't see every single striation of his muscle. So he's seeing himself differently. And right now he's going through that question. It's, what am I doing? Like, what's my purpose right now? Like, am I just going to continually go on this cycle of bodybuilding, of bulking and cutting down? Because he got his body to the absolute best point of his life, just looked insane. And then now it's like, it's already gone. So like, what now? Like, what's the goal? What are you trying to do? Like, are you going to start coaching people? Like, so for him, he's searching for that purpose right now of what's the next thing for me, and why am I still going to the gym and working out? Do I just call it quits? Well, if I'm not working towards a physique, if I'm not working towards a bodybuilding competition, why am I here? So you need to find that greater purpose. Otherwise, you go to the gym and you're like, what am I doing? And you don't have to work hard. Like, there's a lady at my gym. I show up most days like 4:15. She's in her 60s. She's shredded, like ripped. And she's in her 60s. She's there before me and she's there after me. Like, when I show up at 4:15, she's already there. Whenever I leave an hour later, she's on the Stairmaster. And she's not doing any competition. She's not, like, that's just who she is. Maybe the most motivating person that I see at the gym. It's not these big roid heads who, can bench 1,000 pounds. It's this lady, because she's like a monk. She reminds me of like a Buddhist monk. Like, she doesn't care if anyone knows. She's just there. She's disciplined. It's who she is. She's not going for an award. She's not posing in magazines. She is just a disciplined person. So she must have a very deep why as to why she's doing it. And like, that's what I'm after. It's like that why that keeps you there. It's like, you're not going for a specific thing. It's not, 6 months from now I hit my goal. 2 years from now I hit my goal. So no, this is just who I am. I just go to the gym. I'm a disciplined person. I think that's extremely inspiring.
Do you think that bigger thing can be, is that bigger thing a word, or is that bigger thing just a feeling?
Like your why?
Yeah. Because you could outsource that to, again, we go back to purpose. You can make that as big as God. Is that bigger thing a word, or do you think you're just chasing a feeling?
I don't think, well, for me, it's not chasing a feeling. I don't think chasing feelings is ever good, because those feelings are going to be gone. And when those feelings are gone, does that mean you aren't who you are? Like, are you only your feelings? And feelings are tied to emotion, which is tied to just chemicals in your body. Like, after I work out and I do a cold plunge and I have a full belly or whatever, like, I have great feelings. When I was on day 7 of my fast, I felt like I was on a high. Like, I felt so clear. Like, I was journaling a lot. I was like, man, I could write a novel right now. I felt great. I had a great feeling within myself. But is that only who I am? Am I only that feeling right now? No, like I should be able to be depressed and stressed out and still do the same things as that guy. So I don't think it should be tied to a feeling at all. For like we said, but I think the reason you're at the gym, if you don't know right now, that's fine. Still go to the gym. But if you're working towards finding out what that reason is, try to make it definable. Like for me, a perfectly fine reason to go to the gym that can wake my butt up in the morning is I want to show my kids how to live a healthy life. I want to show them how to be disciplined. That alone is a good, strong reason to get yourself to the gym. It could be something more than that. It could be something deeper. If it is for a certain feeling and that's what gets you to the gym right now, nothing wrong with that. I just think for me, that doesn't last because you're going to wake up most days and not have that feeling. And does that mean you don't go to the gym because you don't feel a certain way? Like, are you only you when you feel a certain way? So when you're happy, you're Chris. When you're sad, you're someone else. Your family doesn't know who they're going to get depending on what you ate that day or where your dopamine levels are. You know, I mean, that's why I did the fast. It's so I could be in that suffering state for a long time, go through all these emotions and still say, okay, am I this rock? Am I this lighthouse for my family where it doesn't matter what I'm feeling? Like, that's why I did it. So I don't think feelings should be attached to any of it. But I do say put it in a couple sentences. One word for me doesn't cut it. I need to say, like I just said, I'm going to the gym so I can provide a healthy model for my family, so I can inspire my kids to live a healthy life. And honestly, the words I say will matter more if I am in shape and strong for my children, especially my son. Like if I'm fat and sloppy and I'm a walking hypocrite and I tell my son to be in shape, healthy, and disciplined, he's not going to believe me. And then he's going to resent me. So all those things are great reasons to go to the gym.
In working with all, the large group that you have, is there one thing that you would define as the underlining missing element in men's lives? Whether it be an emotional state, a physical state, whatever it may be, is there one thing that you'd say men are missing?
Yeah, it's, and one word would be fire. That's why I named the program Man on Fire. And what that looks like is we're on social media so much, we listen to the radio, watch TV so much, we are constantly sold things that make us feel better. And those things are things we buy and things we eat and drink and that keep us still, like VR and video games and all these things just keep us sitting still and putting things into our face that give us temporary pleasure. And it's so easy to buy all those things and just do those things. But if you do that over and over again, you start to lose yourself. And as men, I don't think that's the way we're supposed to live. I don't think we're supposed to just be complacent and fat and happy. I don't think we should be like we're meant to chase pleasure all the time. I think we're warriors. I think we're savages. I think we're guys who need to be pushing themselves. And even if we're not out on the battlefield, you can simulate that and you can create those situations for yourself by going to the gym or going for fasting or jumping in a cold plunge or doing really hard things. And I would say the number one thing that guys find is after they start these very basic primal things, I call them primal pillars. If you do these things, you find that fire really quickly. And it just comes from pushing yourself. You can even be, multi-millionaire business guy. Like I got some of those guys in my group that are really wealthy, but they're complacent. They don't have anything. They're not pushing themselves right now. So they're not happy. They're not growing. If we aren't, I feel like as men, if we're not growing, we are miserable. If we're not expanding as people, we are going to be miserable. So we have to be pushing and growing every day, or else we start to lose that fire. So one word, fire.
I like that. I mean, I think I totally agree with you. And I think that showing up and finding that that balanced, I hate the word balance, but that balanced self of, warrior, savage, king, all the lover, all these different archetypes that we can take on as men, but they can ebb and flow between both worlds, right? You could be a tyrant of a king, or you could be a very loving king, right? You could be a savage, or you could be a Viking or a samurai, right? You can ebb and flow between these both worlds, but I think it's creating a mythological relationship with the world. And although we're not on a battlefield and we're not kings and sitting on a throne, it is about creating this relationship with the world that is like Game of Thrones, that's almost beyond your own conceptions. I put a post up that there is magic in the world, and we know that as children.
Yeah, I love that.
We see that as children, we experience that as children, and then the world removes that from our experience, and that's where we get complacent and fat and lazy, and we just become these blobs of culture that we're just consuming, and we're not giving back because we lose the magic of the world. And there is a magic to life, and it is creating this mythological relationship with it.
Yeah, no, I love that. And that you can seek that magic. I think about when I go on camping trips with my family, like I'm seeking those magic moments. It's early in the morning, it's late at night. It's I remember there's this place we go to, and I always wake my daughter up like late at night because she loves going on night walks, and I'll take her out so she could see the stars in the middle of the night. Like that's some magic you get, not in the middle of the day, not when you have a full belly. It's just you can create those moments, but you have to seek it, and it's all out there. In the middle of the morning, whenever it's still dark out, you can see the moon. You're getting out of the cold plunge, and it's snowy out. Like, you feel different, and yeah, you can call it magic or whatever you want, but those times, those moments are out there that we can really put ourselves in it and go after them.
And I think a beautiful thing that you can do, and that leads you to that higher level version of yourself, is recognizing the magic, accepting the magic, and then leaning into the magic, and then allowing the magic to continue. Don't just let it phase out. Like, find it in the bigger moments, right? I remember us paddling out first time I ever surfed, paddling out, sun's coming, breaking dawn, sun's coming over the ocean. I'm with a buddy of mine. He surfs, I don't surf, he's all the way out, and I'm just paddling out. I'm like, this whole experience is just for this. I did not catch a wave. Yeah. I threw up a ton of water. It was miserable after that. But the whole thing was for that moment, because on my deathbed, it will be part of my highlight reel. I will remember that moment. It felt different. And it's those moments that really stand out, but those moments are happening all the time. You could just stare at a tree and look at the awe and be inspired by it. But we're so wrapped up with our phones and our jobs and all of these cultural invaders that we're not able to see the world for what it actually is.
Yeah, I remember over the summer, part of my morning routine, and it changed because I was only able to do it over the summer, was to go to this local park, and there's a hill, there's a big flagpole on top of it, and the sun would rise over the trees and hit this flagpole and hit this hill first, and you could just see the entire beautiful sunrise. So I'd go to the gym early, I'd race home, and I was waking up my kids one at a time to spend some time with them and bring them up to see the sunrise. And it was always there my entire life. Like, I'm 36 years old. It was there. This amazing, magical, inspirational moment was happening every single morning, but I just discovered it. And then I kept on going back so I could experience that every single day. I was like, man, like you said, these things are happening everywhere. And I can't do it anymore because the time difference, and it's just not, there's no more sun. But it was such a great month that I was able to do that and share it with my kids. And yeah, wherever you are, I remember another time when my son was 1 year old, just laying on our back hill in the grass, with him on my chest and just looking up at the sky and just watching the clouds and thinking, man, like this moment is just like an infinite moment. And if I die, go to heaven, and like this is what heaven is, just laying here in the grass with my son, I'd be fine. Like, I don't need anything more than this. And man, that moment just seared into my brain. And I was just laying in my backyard in some grass, like that those moments are everywhere. And absolutely love what you said.
They're always, and they're small moments, right? They usually come fairly unexpected, and they're very small moments. And I think as children, you know this because you watch your children grow up and you're very involved in that, and as am I. You see that wonder that they have towards the world. You see the awe, but you also see, my daughter at 8, and I'm sure you know this as well, you start to see how cultural starts to remove that from their experience. And whether it be with other kids in school or things that they're consuming on TV or whatever it is, they start to become inundated by culture. And I think it's a primary role as parents to step in, remove them from that, and still point out the magic throughout life and not allow it to beat them down. Do not let the world beat your children down. And that goes back to that balance of allowing them to feel resilience, but also give them a safe place. I hate the term, but you know what I'm referring to, a place where they can go and they could speak how they're feeling or what they're feeling or what they're experiencing, because that's what I see amongst guys, you want to say post college to 30, that 22 to 25, 27, 20, 29-year old, that's a real weird place to be, because you're figuring out the world. You kind of are a man, but there's no definition to what a man is, especially now. So it's all over the place, and you're trying to find your way in the world. And if you just conform to what society says, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we have to be really involved in our kids and be intentional with them every single day. It's just like my son he's turning 10, and it's the whole Santa Claus real thing. That Christmas is so important to him and to every kid, but like he just loves it so much. And he talks, it's his favorite holiday after Halloween. And he just loves every little tradition we have to do with Christmas. But he's in 4th grade, and he has kids who are telling him, that Santa's not real and you're stupid if you believe in Santa Claus. And we went downtown Pittsburgh last week to go see an ice rink, see a big tree, and then there's a Santa Claus there. And every single year for his entire life, he was super excited to go sit on Santa's lap, tell him what he wanted for Christmas. And like he believed in his heart that was the real Santa Claus. And we told him it was. But for whatever reason this year, he's like, I know that's not the real one. And that's like the step to understanding, like, yes, Santa's not real at all. He's like, I know that's just a guy in a costume. He's like, the real one doesn't come downtown to Pittsburgh. And Lauren was like, no, that's the real one. I said, yeah, it is the real one. And I didn't like fight it or anything, or I didn't make it a huge deal. Because if I would have like said, yeah, it is, and gotten a screaming match, he would have known I was full of shit.
Right.
So I just let it go. And Nathan, like Lauren sat on Santa's lap, took a picture. Nathan decided not to. But still, Nathan's about to turn 10. That is part of like the transition he's going to, and just a little bit of that magic leaving from his time as a kid. And eventually, probably like next year or the year after, he'll just be like, no, that, Santa's not real. But hey, I'm happy that it's lasted this long. But also that magic, we can continue to encourage in a lot of other spots. Like Santa's just an example. But like putting your son into jiu-jitsu tournaments or waking them up early to see the sunrise or sunset, like all these little things they can still be involved in just amazing magical times. But us as fathers, got to be involved, and can't just let the world and Mr. Beast and YouTube raise our kids. Like, we have to be the ones that are showing them all this magic. Love that.
Hey guys, just want to take a quick break from the podcast to talk about something I'm super passionate about, and that is men's mental health. For those of you who may not know, I am a certified life coach, but I prefer the term journeyman for hire. And 4 years ago, I started the Council of Dudes, a men's group that has monthly meetings to lean on each other, to have open and honest conversations, to build community. So if you're a guy and you're looking to find like-minded individuals to help you see your blind spots and point out some insights and perspectives they may have in their own life, head on over to vinnybrusco.com, click the Council of Dudes banner, and sign up and join the council. I'll wake up early, and then, obviously the kids wake up, and I'll just go on the front porch, have a quick cup of coffee, and I'll grab whoever's up, my wife, the kids. I'm like, just come out here real quick. Just look at the sky. Look how it just like transitions in color. Like it's like, it is awe-inspiring. And it could be Santa, it could be any of the magic of the world that we definitely start to lose. And again, is Santa magic? Is he real? Well, it depends on your definition of real, really, right? It depends on, the feeling of Santa, the feeling of Christmas is real. So what is it in tangible reality? Is that really Santa? My daughter believes in mermaids. She's like, I don't know if I'm like, I don't know if technically, I don't know if mermaids are not real. I don't know. So she'll like, Dad, I believe in mermaids. I'm like, good. Okay, cool. I don't know if unicorns aren't real. I have no idea. Right. What is reality anyway? Right. So when you allow them to play in that world in a different way, yes, there's going to be culture. There's going to be other kids that call them out on things or say things. It is the involvement of the parents, which is where I think a big part of our cultural breakdown is, right? We're not pushing that. You're right. We're allowing YouTube and fast food and all this bullshit to fuel our children. And then we wonder why kids are so depressed at young ages, and they're coming up with all these internal narratives that they're questioning themselves in different ways. And it goes back to the earlier point, that age of 22 to 30, that span for a guy is so impressionable that it's and we have no cultural implementation of shamans or go off into the woods or any of these things that helps them cultivate becoming a man.
Yeah. And I think that's why there's a lot of male influencers, good male influencers, growing right now. Is because there's such a massive lacking in that. But luckily they're able to expand and grow on social media, because you're not going to find that. Like, we just watched some new movie last night. It's called some Family Switch or something.
Oh,
and brand new movie on Netflix.
Yeah.
And I've never seen it. One of our friends told us it was a good movie. So we watched it, and Nathan said to me, he's like, Dad, why is the dad so stupid? It's like, the dad is stupid in every movie. Like, in every TV show and every movie you watch, the dad is dumb. He's weak. He's not a leader. Unless you're watching like a Marvel superhero movie, like the guy is going to be some weak idiot. And that's, and if that's who you want your kids to model, then just leave them to TV and YouTube. But that's why you have to be strong. That's why you have to be the Superman to them and show them that every single day, and bend over for every little thing that comes in their life. Like, there's no, what, Home Improvement, maybe. Like, we started watching Home Improvement with Tim Allen. Like, even he's an idiot on the show, but at least he's masculine a little bit. Like, what shows are there where the guy is loving, wise, warm, and strong? Like, I wish I knew of one.
I'm trying to think of one as we're talking about
you'd be a millionaire.
I'm trying to think of one, and I can't. But your son wouldn't have noticed that or pointed it out or made that comment to you if you weren't showing up as the polar opposite as that dad. If you were showing up in the same way that dad did, then he's going to take on, well, that's how dads behave, and that's how dads are.
Yeah.
It's like even being a dad who wears a hoodie and Vans. I remember growing up and like kind of getting to that later stage of life, especially when I had my daughter. It's like, am I allowed to like dress this way? Like, is this how dads dress? Now, maybe some dads don't, but it wasn't about how dads dress. It's just like, well, this is how I dress. This is how I am. But you watch TV and you see these dads and they're all wearing polos and khakis and whatever aesthetic wardrobe. And you're like, oh, I guess that's how dads, especially like growing up in like the 90s, you have like, Danny Tanner and you have all these dads. You're like, that's how I'm supposed to be as a dad? And there's some good models in there, but even the aesthetic aspect of a dad, is a dad supposed to have, dad bod? Perfect example of that, right? Is a dad supposed to have a six pack and shrug and all this stuff? Or is dad just supposed to be kind of chubby and you kind of poke his belly sometimes when he falls asleep on the couch? What is the definition of a dad?
That's a good point you made about like if I was like that dad, he wouldn't think twice about it. He'd just think it was normal.
Yeah.
And he was able to point that out.
And that's a testament to the work that you're doing both on yourself and for your children, right? That you're showing up in a way that breaks the cultural norm of what a dad is and shows him, yeah, that could be some dads. Sure. Some dads are morons, but your dad's not. And you don't have to be a moron to be a dad.
Yeah. I mean, there's everyone, they're not going to choose to watch that has a, strong guy who's wise and basically the person that I want to be. That doesn't exist on YouTube. There's no entertaining show that a kid's going to choose to watch, because anything that a kid is an idiot, but he's not like what I want my kid to become or who I want to become. Or they love Dude Perfect, and those guys are they're millionaires, business owners, good for them, but they're not like what I want my kid to become, and they don't talk like I want my kid to talk. So that, yeah, if we don't model it, they have nothing. And you're just leaving it up. You're leaving it up to the internet to raise your kid. That's the truth. Like, it wasn't like that 10 years ago. It's this insane time we are in right now. Like, literally, we are the guinea pigs. We are in this time right now that no other man has had to battle. No other father, no other generation of fathers has had to battle what we're battling right now, where it's you are trying to raise your kids versus the internet. Because our kids are on at school, they're on as soon as they get home. And you can't relate what you're going through right now as a father to what your father went through, because that didn't exist. Like, our dads didn't have to battle constant, like, online other people talking to our children. Like, we are the first generation that's had to do that. So, like, it's up to us more than ever to be involved every single day and to give them a model that actually inspires them. Because if you don't inspire your kids, they're going to seek inspiration. Like, our kids want male leadership. Our kids want male role models. So they're going to find a male role model. And if it's not you, you have no control over who it is.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point in regards to and your daughter too, right? Your daughter's going to look to the world to see how men should behave and show up. And that's a whole different ball of wax. Forget about your son, because I mean, I have a boy and a girl as well, and my son's 4, and obviously he's still at that piss and vinegar stage. He's not as refined yet. But my daughter, again, going and exploring the world and seeing culture, she now has a relationship to boys in her classroom and how they treat her and how they speak to her, or how other kids treat her and speak to her. And if she's not seeing examples of how men are or how women are and how you can carry yourself to a higher standard, then she's going to accept how she's treated when she's mistreated.
Yeah. I mean, it goes both ways. Like, our sons are trying to model themselves, or daughters it's just whatever's normal to them. Like, what do I call Lauren? Like, how do I talk to her? And then how am I treating my wife? And that's just whatever's normal to her. She's just going to, yeah, exactly. She's going to be looking for that. And just like we got to show up, it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of responsibility. And I hate hearing that, well, the memes and dad just needs a break. Like, just cut dad some slack. It's like, shut up, grow a pair, and get to work. Like, you want to be a dad, or you just want to be some single guy living in his mom's basement? If you want to be a husband, you want to be a father, you call yourself a leader, suck it up. You need to work right now. And like, yeah, there is a lot of responsibility. There's a lot of pressure. That's your role. And if you're running from that, that's the problem right now. Is men are running from that. No, lean into it. You don't need a break. Life's not too hard for you. It's supposed to be hard.
Yeah, yeah, it's supposed to be hard, because what else are you going to do? What else are you going to do as a man if you're not, creating and cultivating and stressing the body? What else are you, like, I think about that quite often. What else am I supposed to be doing? Like, people are like, oh, I was talking to a guy at work, and I said, I'm very blasé. He's like, you're not blasé. You wake up at 4, you run, you do all these things. I go, I'm a blasé in the sense of like my overall demeanor, like I'm a calm person, but I'm disciplined. And then I go, what else should I be doing? Should I be like sitting on my couch watching Netflix and playing video games? Like, is that what I should be doing? But to our earlier point, when you are eating a certain way, or you're taking time out of your schedule to go to a jiu-jitsu tournament, or you're up at 4 a.m. to do a cold plunge, or whatever it is, when you are stepping outside the social norm and expectation, when you're not drinking, right? I don't drink. People look like, is he a recovering alcoholic? I'm not. I just don't drink. I had 2 conversations with brilliant people. One's a heart surgeon, emergency room. The other one's an emergency room ER doctor. And they're both saying to me, the 1 or 2 beers you're having a night have a cognitive effect on your abilities. And I'm not like a big drinker, never was. So I was like, so if I'm having this slight disadvantage to life by those 1 or 2 beers, I might as well not even have them. What's the point? I don't even enjoy them. Like, I enjoy cold beer, but they're not doing anything. I'm not getting drunk. But when you're out and you're not having a drink, people look at you different. People say, oh, you want a drink? No, I'm good. And they keep on pressuring it, because you're standing out as someone that doesn't just conform to what society expects of you.
Yeah, and it's a whole nother thing. And I've gone through that the past years of work, because I used to drink. We used to have like whiskey parties at my house where just everyone would bring over a bottle of whiskey. I remember getting just passed out drunk on whiskey. And it can be fun, but then you feel like shit, and then you can't go to the gym, and then you eat like shit, and then you have no energy for your family, and you just fall asleep. And when all the side effects are done, you're like, was that worth it? Was that little drunken conversation worth it? And whenever you're out with friends, if you decide, hey, I'm going to stop drinking, or instead of having 5 beers, I'm going to have 1, whatever your thing is, yeah, you're going to get your brothers and your coworkers and your friends ragging on you a little bit at the beginning. And that's okay. You have 2 options. You can either avoid the situation completely and just not go participate. And you might have to do that at the beginning. Or you can become strong enough to where you can exist in that situation and still hold your own and say, no, man, I'm good. I'm just going to have 1 drink. And are you confident and authentic enough to where you can just tell someone who's pressuring you, no, I'm good. I'm just going to have a drink, or I'm just going to have iced tea. Like, I go out to restaurants, I just have iced tea, unsweetened iced tea. That's my thing now. Same thing. I don't drink a lot. I don't have an alcohol problem. Occasionally I will. Like, I went on a date last week with my wife, had a glass of red wine when I was done. It's fine. Like, I'm not going to spiral into a drunken mess. So like that connection isn't there. But most of the time, like a family party, something like that, like, I'm not drinking. And now it's just expected. People just know that I'm that disciplined guy who doesn't do that. But at the beginning, when you're starting out, you're going to get some resistance. You're going to get some comments. And that's the growth period for you. That's the resistance that you have to push through to become stronger. It's like going to the gym and lifting weights. You've been used to lifting 100 pounds every day. Now you're starting to get comments from your brothers. Can you handle that? If you can handle that, then we just bumped it up to 125. Can you have no drinks at the family party? Well, now you're benching 150. Like, it's just extra resistance makes extra strength for you. And to be able to exist a disciplined life in the midst of people who aren't disciplined is a whole nother thing. And if you can do that, every time you can do that, once again, you prove to yourself that you can. And yeah, then people are going to want to follow you. People are going to be like, man, why is John not drinking? He's still happy. Like, John's at a party, he's not drinking, and he's the happiest and funniest guy here. Why do I need to have a drink to have a conversation with somebody? Maybe I don't have to. Maybe I can do what John's doing. And then they start to think like that. But you have to go through a long journey to get to that point.
Hello, friends. How are you? Just want to take a quick, brief break from the podcast, talk about a piece of gear that I've been rocking nonstop, and that's Wowie shorts. WowieLife.com, the Nomad 2.0s. They are super diverse. They're super comfortable. They've got this unique little stylish trim on the pocket, different on each color. I got them in green. I got them in blue. The black are in the laundry. They come with a lining, so you don't have to waste a pair of underwear, which is huge. I wear them to jiu-jitsu. I wear them on the trail. I wear them to the beach. I wear them out to dinner. They're super diverse. They're super comfortable. They're family owned, which is always awesome. And they just released a new pair of sweatpants called the Ramblers and the Flow, which they are so dope. I can't get enough of them. I wear them all the time. They're pretty much the only pair of shorts I'm rocking these days. And for listeners of this podcast, you can get 15% off of your entire purchase with the promo code VBShow. So head on over to WowieLife.com, grab yourself a pair of the Nomad 2.0s. Those are my personal favorite, and you will not regret it. Check them out, WowieLife.com. Now back to the show. Yeah, Stephen Pressfield talks a lot about the resistance that we come up against and how it's this combative force. But again, the combative force is what's needed in order to persevere through it, to come out on the other side, right? It's the yin and the yang of life, right? It's needing the light for the dark and needing the dark for the light. You need to have these Siths and Jedis, right? You need these polarizing things in order to cultivate yourself and to be able to alchemize both of them, right? You need to be able to harness that darker side of you, but see through it and get past the immediate gratification of it. And also on the other side of it, because you can't just be all sunshines and rainbows either, right? You can't just be like, oh, no, I'm good. I'm not drinking. People are like, oh, good for you. All right, great. They're going to push, because that's what people do. And not in a rude way, but then you also be aware of who's watching. Like if you're around your kids, they're being exposed to, oh, dad caves to peer pressure. So when they're at that party at 13, 14, 15, whatever it is, and they come up against something that they don't want to do intrinsically, they're going to have that playing somewhere in their mind that it's okay to cave to what people are pressuring me to do. And that's the bigger picture. That's the longevity of the decisions you make in a moment, because that's where it plays out on another level, because they're going to be in a situation in their life that we all know it's going to happen, that they're going to come against something that they don't believe in. And the world's going to pressure them to try to do it. And are they going to have that memory of you saying, oh, okay, fine? Or are they going to see that dad stood firm against that?
Yeah, like every decision we have has an infinite impact. Like whether you want to think about it like that or not, it doesn't matter. Like you decide to do something in your life. If it's by yourself, you're affecting your own soul and your own identity. If it's in front of your kids, they are learning from you. Like they probably think you're Superman and they probably want to be like you. So they're going to end up doing whatever you do. And also has to do with that. Like if we cave and we're sloppy, our kids are going to either mimic us, or later in life, they're going to reject us. They're going to say, I want to be like my dad. My dad does it, so it's okay for me. Or they're going to look at other guys and see the way other men are living and say, man, why is my dad like that? Why did he choose to live that life? I don't want to be like him. So, but we have that opportunity. It's just through those thousands of daily decisions we make.
And I think a big part of that, and that's what you create, is finding your tribe or your community or your brotherhood of like-minded individuals, because especially as guys, we have this lone wolf mentality that you need to go through life alone. You need to be the lone wolf. And there is something kind of cool about that, right? The James Bonds and all these kind of one-time guys are just like, yeah, like they're doing it on their own. The lone soldier going to do the thing, the mission, right? The Batmans, right? And there is something cool about that and alluring about that. but there's also the X-Men, right? And it's a group of people that come, or the Avengers, right? Where you have to lean on each other for experience, for your blind spots, for, you know, you may not have the strength, but you have the wisdom, or you may not have this, but you have that, and kind of pick and learn from each other. And that's what's so important about groups like yours, the Council of Dudes, which is the group that I run, you know, finding men who are like-minded, who are going to point out your blind spots, who have been through the mud, maybe different mud, but it's still experiential in the world, in the mystic, in the play that's life, and bring back some of the gold that they've experienced and share it with the rest of the tribe.
Yeah, you don't get bonus points for going alone. Only in your own head. Like if you're the lone wolf, I see some of those memes of, you know, the tiger or the lion with the mane. It's like black and white. He's got like blood on his face. It's like, I did it alone. I don't need anyone. It's like, great, good for you. You're also by yourself and lonely. Like, it's a very selfish mentality. It's you go it alone. Who are you inspiring? Yourself. And honestly, if you're telling everyone on social media that you're going it alone, you're not going it alone.
Right. Good point.
You're doing it for attention.
Right.
Like you could share your journey and you can inspire a lot of people. You could be part of a group of guys and maybe you're 1 month ahead of another guy and you can carry them along with you. Maybe they're struggling with something that you struggled with that you can now change their life. You know, is that worth it? In my mind, yeah. And then you can cultivate the sense of community and tribe that you can bring to your own family. Like, yeah, you can go it alone or you can impact tons of people. Just up to you. It's like selfish versus selfless.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point is, you know, it goes back and forth of being just one step ahead, right? It's pointing out the speed bumps or the hidden cop on the side of the road when you know someone's behind you, right? You know that there's something ahead that's looming and lurking, and you have the ability to help someone through that. And I think it's part of our duty as humans, nonetheless men, it's part of our duty as human beings to help other people get through life, because we all do need to lean on each other. We all do need to have a sense of community. We all do need to find like-minded individuals that are going to inspire and push and promote and find that balance of give and take in order to become a better version of yourself. And whatever that means, it means, but it does take a tribe and a community to help create that and cultivate that.
Completely agree.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that's why you got your group. That's why I have my group. And yeah, no bonus points for going alone. In my mind, it just takes longer for your family to see you become the man you need to become. So awesome. Lean on other men.
Absolutely. Dude, I'm super inspired by you every single day. I really am. I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. I look at you and I'm like, God damn it, I gotta get up out of bed. Or, you know, and it isn't always easy, but seeing guys like you showing up in the world, doing your thing day in and day out, it gives other guys permission to do it. And just keep on doing the work you're doing. Where can people connect with you? Where can people become part of your program?
Yeah, find me on Instagram. I'm on all the social medias, but I check Instagram the most. So it's just at Rising Father. There's a link in my bio that has information on my program, or if you just want to DM me, I'll have a conversation with you. So yeah, thanks, man. This has been great. Let's do it again.
Absolutely. And I love the voiceovers that you do with the montages of your family. It's fantastic.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Awesome, dude. Thank you so much.